Let's look for it here. Yes, it is. So every time it shows up in Ezekiel, this is what they have. Prince of Meshech and Tubal, Prince of Meshech and Tubal, Prince of Meshech and Tubal. All of them are 5387. So let's look up 5387. 5387. 5387. Nasi, exalted one, a king, a sheik, rising mist, captain, chief, governor, prince, ruler, vapor. But hold on, let me look up Rosh real quick, because I know Rosh, and this is why they have it. I don't understand why they don't have it in the King James, but that's okay. We're gonna find it here because I want you guys to see this. ROS. Rosh. 7220. Let's look this up. 7220. 7220. 7220. Rosh, same as 7218. Israelite for a nation, Rosh. Okay, 7220, it says it's the same as 19. Rosh. 7218, a poisonous plant, probably for the poppy. Its conspicuous head, generally poison, even in the serpents, gal, hemlock, poison, venom. Okay, a conspicuous head. Rosh, a poison. These same people want us to believe that it's Russia. It doesn't say Russia. All right? Which is the reason why I wanted us to see that for ourselves. A prince of poison, pretty much. A poisonous head. What's a poisonous head? Well, that could be anybody, like the anti-Mashiach would be a poisonous head. No, it doesn't represent Rothschild. I mean, not to say that the Rothschilds aren't a poisonous head. They are poisonous. They have been leading through the banks. They have been running this world for a very long time and still do. But that's not who we're speaking of, because we're talking about after the millennial reign. Let's keep this in perspective. We're not talking about this world right now as we know it. This is after Yah has been here on this earth for 1,000 years. And then after the 1,000 years, that's who we're talking about. Which is why you know it's not going to be Russia, because Russia is not going to exist when the millennial reign gets here. All of these lands of these governments would not exist. It'll be totally different. And so let's continue. Verse 4. And I shall turn you around, and I shall put hooks into your jaws, and shall lead you out with all your army, horses and horsemen, clad perfectly, a great assembly with armor and shields, all of them handling swords. Persia, Cush, Put are all with them, all of them with shield and helmet. So this lets you know those people who are of this bloodline, this DNA, will still be here. They will be the ones that we will be ruling and reigning over as kings and priests. Gomer and all its bands, and the house of Togarmah from the far north and all of its bands, many peoples with you. If you're going to say anybody is Russia, it would be these people. Gomer. Be ready, prepare yourselves, for you and all your assemblies that are assembled unto you, and you shall be a guard for them. After many days, this is talking about after the millennial reign, after many days you shall be called up. In the latter years you shall come into the land of those brought back from the sword. This is after the resurrection, and gathered from many people on the mountains of Yasharal, the tribes of Israel, which had been a continual waste, but they were brought out of the peoples, and all of them shall dwell safely. They're not dwelling safely over there in Israel right now. Some of them are fleeing. They're getting on the first flight out of Ben Gurion Airport, and they're trying to get out. There's nothing safe about what's going on over there right now. And you shall go up, coming like a storm, covering the land like a cloud. You and all your bands and many peoples with you. Many people with you. Again, let's go back to Revelation. Let's look at that passage where it talks about this war of Gog and Magog in Revelation chapter 20. And he shall go out to lead the nations astray, which are in the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together for battle, whose number as the sand of the sea. And they came up over the breadth of the earth and surrounded the camp of the set apart ones. Surrounded the camp of the Kodashim and the beloved city. Are those people over there called the Kodashim? Are they the set apart ones over there right now? No, they're not. They're non-believers. You even mention that the Messiah already came, and they would probably spit in your face. You even mention, even though they may call him Jesus, but if you was to say Yahusha, again, they would probably spit in your face, because they are still waiting for a so-called Messiah to come, which we know that Messiah that's coming is the anti-Messiah. Still not believers. They still don't believe in the truth. So no, they are not the set apart ones. And it says, and fire came down from Elohim out of the Shamaim and consumed them. Well, let's go back and let's read Ezekiel. And let's continue to see that this all lines up with Revelation chapter 20. And you shall go up, coming like a storm, covering the land like a cloud. You and all your bands and many peoples with you. Thus said the Master Yahuwah. And it shall be that in that day that the word arise in your heart, and you shall devise an evil plan, and you shall say, let me go up against the land of unwalled villages. Let me go to those at rest who dwell safely, all of them dwelling without walls and having neither bars nor gates. Look at Israel right now. They got walls separating them from the Palestinians, from the West Bank to Gaza to the Golan Heights. All of those things are separated by walls. They separated themselves from those that they call Palestinians. To take a plunder and to take booty and to stretch out your hand against the waste places that are again inhabited, against a people gathered from the peoples, acquiring livestock and their goods, who dwell in the middle of the land. Sheba, Dedan, and the merchants of Tarshish, and all their young lions shall say to you, have you come to take plunder? Have you gathered your army to take booty, to bear away the silver and the gold, to take away livestock and goods, to take great plunder? Therefore, son of Adam, prophesy, and you shall say to Gog, thus said the Master Yahuwah, in that day when my people, Yasharal, dwell safely. Again, those people are not dwelling safely, and we're talking about all 12 tribes. We're talking about during the millennial reign, not this time right now. Would you not know? And you shall come from your place out from the far north, you and many peoples with you, all of them riding on horses, a great assembly and a mighty army, and you shall come up against my people, Yasharal, like a cloud, to cover the land. In the latter days it shall be. Again, this is after the millennial reign. And I shall bring you against my land in order that the nations know me when I am set apart in you, O Gog, before their eyes. Thus said the Master Yahuwah, are you the one I spoke of in former days by my servants, the prophets of Yasharal, who prophesied for years in those days to bring you against them? And it shall be on that day, on the day when God comes against the land of Yasharal, declares the Master Yahuwah, that my wrath shall come up in my face. For in my jealousy and in the fire of my wrath I have spoken. On that day there shall be a great shaking in the land of Yasharal, so that the fish of the sea and the birds of the heavens and the beasts of the field and all creeping creatures that creep on the earth and all men who are on the face of the earth shall shake at my presence. And the mountains shall be thrown down, and the steep places shall fall, and every wall fall to the ground. And I shall call for a sword against Gog on all my mountains, that is in all my kingdoms. declares the Master Yahuwah, the sword of each one being against his brother. And I shall judge him with pestilence and blood, and rain down flooding rain, hailstones, fire, and sulfur on him and on his bands and on the many peoples who are with him. And I shall exalt myself and set myself apart, and I shall be known in the eyes of many nations, and they shall know that I am Yahuwah. Again, this has nothing to do with what's going on right now. They want us to believe that right now is the war of Gog and Magog. They are trying to cause us to believe that these prophecies are happening right now, and they're not. I just showed you from 2 different books, let every word be established by 2 or 3 witnesses. And I showed you from Ezekiel and in Revelation that all of this lines up prophetically with the same timeline, that the war of Gog and Magog comes at the end. This is after the millennial reign, not before. Not before. This is after. Okay, so now with chapter 39, we're going to take a break real quick. And I, again, want to thank all of you that are here, that are listening to this. I had to take a drink. My throat is getting a little dry. So what we just read, has anyone have any questions based on the subject matter that we're talking about right now? Not about what scripture am I reading from or anything else. We're talking about what we're talking about right now. Does anybody have any questions about Ezekiel and Revelation of what we just spoke about right now? This would be the time. Let's see. So first, the resurrection. When does the Exodus happen? So repent before it's too late. Are you talking about the second Exodus? I believe that's what you're speaking of. Okay, so here's the thing. Let me answer the first one. So, okay, the second Exodus is going to happen sometime right after this world war begins. Okay, what we're witnessing right now is the precursor of the reason why we're getting ready to be scattered into the wilderness, where Yah is going to deal with us as he talks to a man face to face. He's going to remove the rebels from amongst us while we're out there literally fleeing for our lives, because what's going to happen after this war is going to be a famine is going to be in the land, which is going to bring about the mark of the beast, which is the only way you're going to get your rations to eat or to continue to dwell and live in their so-called 15-minute cities. Now, let's see. We are talking about the resurrection. We're talking about us going back into the land after the resurrection. And then we're talking about the millennial reign. And then after the millennial reign, we have the war of Gog and Magog, and how we line that up from Revelation and Ezekiel. That's what we were talking about. Okay, let's see. Who else asked a question? Let's see here. So Debbie says, so during the millennial living with Yahusha, we will be evil and fighting? No, we will not be. These are the people that we're going to be ruling and reigning over, Debbie. We are part of the first resurrection. We can't sin anymore. We are in our new bodies. We are now immortal, as it says in 1 Corinthians chapter 15. We have put on immortality. When we go to the wilderness, is that literal place for all the followers? Topher, for those who are left over, who probably didn't get unalived by these weapons of mass destruction that's going to be literally raining on the earth, because we got to remember, a quarter of the earth's population is going to decease, okay, because of these things. Whoever is left, we are going out into this wilderness place. Okay. Now, don't confuse that with the 144,000 households. The 144,000 households are literally going to be taken up off the earth. The rest of us are going to be getting dealt with in the wilderness. Nas, the millennial reign is when the Messiah at his second coming comes back. He resurrects those who believe in him. We are put in our new bodies, which are immortal bodies that cannot die anymore. And we're going to be ruling and reigning over people who did not take the mark of the beast, but they are going to be procreating. They're still going to have children. And so during that 1,000-year reign, they're going to be multiplying upon multiplying. They're going to replenish the earth, and we're going to be ruling and reigning over them. And then after the 1,000 years is over, Satan is going to be released to tempt them. He can't tempt us anymore because we're in our new bodies. But those who are here that are dwelling, they're the ones who are going to be tested to see if they're going to stay true and be obedient to Yah and what Yah has told us to go and command them to follow, and for them to come to Jerusalem 3 times a year. And any of those who don't, there's going to be curses upon that area and upon those people. Yes, new bodies. Where is this? Where is the scripture for that? Reading from the scriptures, 2009. So Yanida, that is in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, also in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4. 1 Corinthians chapter 15, you should read that, and 1 Thessalonians chapter 4. It talks about the new bodies. Never again, when the Messiah separates the wheat from the chaff, that's going to happen in the wilderness and also on Judgment Day. Can I please see the front of your book? Thank you. I have a question about the scripture in Ezekiel which mentions David. Yes, go ahead, Yanita. I got to catch up with you here because I am like 13 messages behind. Let me get over here. Oh, the blue one. You want to see this one. Okay, it meant Ions, he is a prince. What exactly does that mean? 4 winds in Ezekiel 37:9, same as the 4 winds in Revelation 7. Is the dry bones given breath of the 144,000? No, these are two different passages. The 144,000 are sealed in Revelation 7 before the destruction of things that are going to happen, whereas the 4 winds in Ezekiel chapter 37 is speaking of bringing us back from destruction, bringing us up out of the grave. What is the word study that you looked up words in? That is called the Strong's Concordance. That is this big old book here. After the millennial reign, Satan will be defeated and thrown in the lake of fire. It's not right after the millennial reign, but it will be, Nas. We're not told how many years after the millennial reign that Judgment Day happens. Because again, if you read Revelation, let me take you guys there for a second here. And then we're going to start reading Ezekiel 39. We are told here at the end of Revelation. Okay, so we have the war. So we have the millennial reign, right? The millennial reign happens, and we're part of the first resurrection for those of us who believe. After that, after the 1,000 years, Satan is released from his prison, and he shall go out to lead the nations astray. Again, he can't lead us astray. We're part of the first resurrection. We have already passed our test, if you will. So we're not being tested again. Just like the angels, right? So the first test was with the angels. You had the righteous angels, and then all of a sudden there was these unrighteous angels, the fallen ones. When they fell, along with Shaitan, meaning that they had sin in them, they were no longer able to dwell, to live in the Shama, in the heaven with Yahuwah, but they were able to still transverse through the heavens, as we see to this day, as they were in the Garden of Eden when Adam and Yahuwah was in the garden. This is why Shaitan was able to reveal himself to mankind, to Adam and his wife. Okay, and so they were tested already. They fell. Now, those 2/3 of the angels who didn't fall, they can't sin anymore, or try to sin if they wanted to, I should say. Okay, because they passed the test. So they are now in their eternal state as far as their dwelling. The 2/3 that didn't fall, they're secured with Yahuwah in his kingdom. The 1/3 that fell with Satan, they're going to be secured in the future into the lake of fire. Now it's our turn. We're the second ones being tested right now. Okay, from Adam to right now, present, all the way until the millennial reign. So when we're part of this first resurrection, now we too will be secured in our bodies where we cannot sin even if we wanted to. We have a new mind, a new understanding, and we've already went through our test. Well, these people who are going to be where is it here? And when Satan is released from his prison, he shall go out to lead the nations astray. These are the people, the nations that we are ruling and reigning over. This is why it says that, and shall reign with him 1,000 years. Okay, we are reigning with the Messiah for 1,000 years. We are in these new bodies that cannot die. We're immortal, but we are ruling over these nations. Now, these nations are going to still be in these kind of bodies, natural bodies. We're going to have celestial bodies or heavenly bodies. And so these people who are on the earth, they're going to continue to procreate. We're not going to procreate anymore. As part of this first resurrection, we will be just like the angels, the sons of Elohim. We're not given in marriage nor being married. Okay. And so these people will be getting married. They will have children, but now they're going to see the kingdom here on earth for 1,000 years. Now, when Satan is released, he has to go and test these people now, because they too need to be tested. Okay. Now, once they're done, then comes to be what we know as Judgment Day, which is verse 12. Okay. So if we go here, when it talks about how, and they came across the earth and surrounded the camp, which would be our home. Okay, you and I, part of the first resurrection, when Satan tempts these people to come against us, which is what we just read in Ezekiel chapter 38, they're going to try to destroy us, but they won't be able to. And so it says, and the devil who led them astray was thrown into the lake of fire. So now he's gone. And the sulfur where the beast and the false prophets are, that's where he's going to be. Okay. And they shall be tortured there forever. Then here comes the great white throne. So now the third testing of these people in their natural bodies, who are these nations that went astray because they listened to Satan, like we are right now, for those of us who want to go astray, not speaking of you and me, but those that are in this world right now, the majority of them have gone astray and they're following Satan. Well, when he's released, he's going to do it again, but not with us, because we're part of the first resurrection. We can't be tempted anymore. Okay, so now when this happens and Satan is gone and all of this and they've been destroyed, now it's the great white throne judgment. These people who are in these natural bodies, who are part of these nations who went astray, now they're going to get judged. And so this is why it says, and I saw the dead, small and great, standing before the throne, and the books were open. And another book was opened, which was the book of life. And the dead were judged from what was written in the books. This ain't us. We're already done. We've already been resurrected. We can't be the ones who are going to be judged, because we're the ones who are going to be judging these people. Okay, this is why when we come to this portion of Judgment Day and the books are open, this is where, like, even Shaul says, do you not know that you shall judge the world and even judge the angels? That's when this happens. And it says, and the sea gave up the dead and who were in it, and death and Sheol gave up the dead who were in them, and they were judged, each one according to their works. And the death and Sheol were thrown into the lake of fire. This is the second death. And if anyone was not found written in the book of life, he was thrown into the lake of fire. Now, once this is done, now everything has been tested. Okay. Now Yah creates a new heaven and a new earth, because there's no more testing after this. Now everything is eternal. This is the day without end. It just continue on. There's no longer a sun. There's no longer a moon. There's not going to be these big wide open oceans. There's going to be lakes and waterfalls and all that, but there's not going to be where most of the earth is oceans. It's going to be opposite. It's going to be mostly land and less of water. Alrighty. Okay, so we're going to go back to Ezekiel chapter 39, and I believe that's where we're going to end today, at chapter 39. So let's continue. Fly this guy. This is called the scriptures. Okay, the scriptures. Okay, so let's pick back up here. So again, the war of Gog and Magog is what we were reading about. Now we're going into chapter 39. And you, son of Adam, prophesy against Gog, and you shall say, thus said the Master Yahuwah, see, I am against you, O Gog, the prince of Rosh, Meshech, and Tubal. Again, this is after the millennial reign. This is not talking about Russia. And shall turn you around and lead you on and bring you up to the uttermost parts of the north and bring you against the mountains of Yasharal, which is the tribes of Israel. Okay, where we are dwelling safely, like we just read in Revelation chapter 20. And shall strike the bow out of your left hand and make the arrows fall from your right hand. On the mountains of Yasharal you shall fall, you and all your bands and the peoples who are with you. To the birds of prey of every sort and to the beasts of the field I shall give you for food. On the face of the field you shall fall, for I have spoken, declares the Master Yahuwah. And I shall send fire upon Magog and those who live undisturbed in the coastlands, and they shall know that I am Yahuwah. When is he going to send this fire? This is when it's at the end. This is the time when Yah's like, he's just going to take them all out because they're trying to come against us. And I shall make my set-apart name known in the midst of my people Yasharal, and not let my set-apart name be profaned anymore. And the nations shall know that I am Yahuwah, the set-apart one of Yasharal. See, it shall come, and it shall be done, declares the Master Yahuwah. This is the day which I have spoken. And those who inhabit the cities of Yasharal shall go out and set on fire and burn the weapons, both the shields and the armor and the bows and the arrows and the clubs and the spears, and they shall make fires with them for 7 years. 7 years. And take no wood from the field, nor cut down any of the forest, for with the weapons they make fire, and they shall plunder those who plunder who looted them, declares the Master Yahuwah. And it shall be on that day that I give Gog a place for a burial site there in Yasharal, the valley of those passing by east of the sea, stopping those passing by because there they saw, or shall bury, Gog and all his crowd, and they shall call it the valley of Haman Gog. And the house of Yasharal shall bury them for 7 new months in order to cleanse the land. It's going to take them 7 months to cleanse the earth of all their bodies. And all the people of the land shall bury them, and it shall be for a name to them on the day that I am esteemed, declares the Master Yahuwah. And they shall separate men who continually pass through the land, burying those who are passing through, those left on the surface of the ground, in order to cleanse it. And at the end of the 7 new months they shall search, and those passing through shall pass through the land. And when anyone sees a man's bone, he shall set up a sign beside it, till the buriers have buried it in the valley of Haman Gog. And also the city named Hamona shall be there. So shall they cleanse the land. And you, son of Adam, Thus said the Master Yahuwah, speak to every sort of bird and every beast of the field. Assemble yourselves and come and gather from all around to my slaughtering, which I am slaughtering for you, a great slaughtering on the mountains of Yasharal. And you shall eat flesh and drink blood. Eat the flesh of mighty and drink the blood of the princes of the earth, of the rams, of the lambs, the goats, the bulls, of all of them, fatlings of Bashan. Again, this sounds just like in Revelation at his coming. At his coming, when he comes on the earth. Remember, I was showing you earlier, this is the supper of the Lamb. And you shall eat fat till you are filled, meaning that you shall destroy until you're happy with what you have destroyed, because these are the people who have done us wrong. And drink blood till you are drunk at my slaughterings, which I am slaughtering for you. And you shall be satisfied at my table with horses and riders, with mighty men and with all the men of battle, declares the Master Yahuwah. Now again, let's go back to Revelation and show you this same thing. Revelation chapter 19. And it says here, let us be glad and rejoice and give him praise, for the marriage of the Lamb has come, and his wife prepared herself, and to her it was given to be dressed in fine linen, and clean and bright, for the fine linen is the righteousness of the set apart ones, that's you and me. And he said to me, right, Baruch are those who have been called to the marriage supper of the Lamb. And he said to me, these are the true words of Elohim. And I fell and worshipped at his feet and worshipped him. But he said to me, because he had fell at the feet of an angel, he says, do not do it. I am your fellow servant and of your brothers who possess the witness of Yahusha. Worship Elohim, for the witness of Yahusha is the spirit of prophecy. So then it goes on and says, now this, he saw a vision. Okay, so this takes him back to the time of when Yah is about to come at his second coming. And so it says here, and we read this earlier, where it talks about here, and I'm going to jump down to verse 17. And I saw one of the messengers standing in the sun, and he cried with a loud voice, saying to all the birds that fly in the midst of heaven, come and gather together for the supper of the great Elohim. Again, this is the supper of the Lamb, to eat the flesh of the sovereigns, and the flesh of the commanders, and the flesh of the strong ones, and the flesh of horses, and those who sit on them, and the flesh of all the people, free and slave, both small and great. And it says, and I saw the beast and the sovereigns of the earth and their armies gathered together to fight him who sat on the horse and his army, which is you and I. And the beast was seized, and with him the false prophet who works signs in the presence. Okay, and so we know what happens to them. They are thrown into the lake. But this is exactly what we read here in Ezekiel chapter 39. Okay, that he has given them for food, and that we are to destroy all of them. All right, until our belly is full. And then we're going to do this. And so this whole thing is about how we are going to destroy and unalive them. And to drink until we're drunk. Not that we're actually drinking their blood. This is all metaphorical. All right. And he says, and you shall be satisfied at my table with horses and riders, with mighty men and with all the men of battle. This is the Lamb's Supper. Okay, when you read about this isn't what you've been taught in Christianity, where you're going to be taken up for 7 years while this great tribulation is happening down here during this 7-year tribulation period. And that while we're up there being served on this table that goes on for whoever knows how long, again, the imagery that they gave us in Christianity, while we're sitting up there having this Lamb's Supper, the whole earth is going into disarray. No, that's not what it says in Scripture. The Scripture tells you what the Lamb's Supper is, and it's us coming down to battle against them. And we will battle against them because it is written. And so it says, and I shall set my esteem among the nations, and all the nations shall see my judgment which I have executed, and my hand which I have laid on them. And the house of Yasharal shall know that I am Yahuwah, their mighty one, from that day onward. And the nations shall know that the house of Yasharal went into exile for their crookedness, because they have trespassed against me, because we have broken his Torah. Right? So that I hid my face from them, and I gave them into the hand of their adversaries, and they all fell by the sword. This is talking about what's going on right now and how he had to show us all of these things. According to their uncleanness and according to their transgressions, I have dealt with them and hidden my face from them. But he's not going to hide his face any longer. The time is coming when he's going to reveal himself once again to us. Therefore, thus said the Master Yahuwah, now I am going to bring back the captives of Yaakov. That's when that's going to happen. So what you're seeing here is a rewriting. So this portion that we're reading in chapter 39 of Ezekiel is taking us back. It's not taking us forward. It doesn't come right after Ezekiel chapter 38. This is taking us back to the second coming of Yahuwah. Because remember, the second coming, and then we have the millennial reign, and then we have the Gog and Magog war. This is not the Gog and Magog war here. This is at the end. Excuse me, I'm saying that backwards. This is before that. This is when Yahusha comes back at the second coming. And so this is what we're reading here. He goes, and so therefore, thus said the Master Yahuwah, now I am going to bring back the captives of Yaakov, and I shall have compassion on all the house of Yasharal, and shall be jealous for my set apart name. And they shall have borne their shame and all their trespass they committed against me when they dwell safely in their own land against, again, the millennial reign, with none to make them afraid. When I have brought them back from the peoples and gathered them out of the lands of their enemies, and I shall be set apart in them before the eyes of many nations. Again, this is during the millennial reign. And they shall know that I am Yahuwah, their mighty one, their Elohim, who set them into exile amongst the nations, and then gathered them back to their own land, and left none of them behind. Again, meaning none of us shall be left alone. We shall all be brought up. If we belong to him, he is either going to raise us up out of that grave, okay, like we read in Ezekiel chapter 37, the dry bones, or we're alive at the time of his coming, and we're changed in a twinkling of an eye. One way or the other, none of us shall be left behind. Verse 29, and no longer do I hide my face from them. You see that? For I shall have poured out my Ruach, my spirit, on the house of Yasharal, declares the Master Yahuwah. That is the end of that chapter. Now, when we go into chapter 40, which will be next Shabbat, now we're going to get into some beautiful things here. Because now we're going to be talking about the millennial, not the millennial reign, but New Jerusalem. And we're going to go into the city and the way it looks, and the temple that is going to be erected. It's beautiful. So again, for those of you who are going to be here next week, please read the rest. Chapter 40 to 48. Okay, chapters 40 to 48, and we're going to go into that, and we're going to line all that up as well with Daniel, because we didn't even go into Daniel today. So Daniel also lines up with everything that we just read here in Ezekiel and in Revelation, and we're going to tie all three of these together. Once we get done with Ezekiel, we'll be able to tie all of this together with Daniel and Revelation and Ezekiel all together in one whop. We're going to put it all down as I've seen it and how Yah has revealed it to me, and you guys might get more of the information than what he has shown me. And if that is the case, please do share. Okay. When will this be? This will be next week. 1 o'clock West Coast, 4 o'clock East Coast. And if you live in between, 2 o'clock Mountain, 3 o'clock Central. If you're overseas, look at the time that it is right now and just go back to when I first started, which was a little after 1 o'clock, and we will reveal more of these things together.